Hello, and welcome to the Legendarium Green Team, the weird little spin-off of the Legendarium podcast, where patrons discuss the books and topics that Craig and the crew haven't gotten around to yet. I'm Little Red Book, and today I have with me Mr. Sunshine himself, Cesky.
Hey!
And a special guest host, Lammy Lams, otherwise known as Mike from the Cosmere Deep Dive podcast.
Hi, I'm Mike. Hello.
We will be discussing spoilers today, but we will give ample warning before we start. So today, the book is The Old Man's War by John Scalzi? Scalzi. I am the Craig. I am the Mike's Craig of the Green Team podcast. Oh, yeah.
If you're not familiar with my podcast, I have my own Craig.
Who constantly mispronounces everything. Okay, Old Man War is John Scalzi's fanfiction tribute to the Starship Troopers. It begins with John Perry at 75 standing over his wife's grave as he prepares to enlist with the promise of a renewed youth. It's all more complicated than he expected. He finds his consciousness inserted into his clone. For 10 years, he must fight to defend Earth's colonies from alien forces. Before we get started, what is your overall reaction to this book on a 5-star scale?
Cesky, why don't you go first?
Okay, I think I would give this a high 4-star. I enjoyed it a lot. The story is good. There were some twists where I thought were good, and I didn't have anything wrong with it, but it didn't connect with me enough to give it a full 5 stars, perfect. But I definitely think it's a great book and one worth reading.
I give it, call it 4.5. I love this book. I think it's okay. I also love Starship Troopers. I can recognize the many faults in Starship Troopers. This book is that, but improved in almost every sense. And I love Scalzi's writing. I've loved everything of his that I've read, and I own most of it. I've read this book many times, so it's very comfortable to come back to.
So I'm gonna give it 4.5 too, I think. There are things I really like about it. There are things that are a little frustrating about it.
You did swear at me over several points in this book.
Because it made me cry, and I'm probably going to cry, just so you know.
Calm down, Todd.
It's going to happen. How many times have I cried, Cesky? Probably 4 or 5 times.
Yeah. A lot more than I've cried.
I cried for Murderbot, okay? But, I found it an enjoyable book. If you like military fiction, if you like military sci-fi, if you like Starship Troopers, definitely it's a great book. So how did the action and humor work for you, Lammy?
Both of them worked extraordinarily well for me. I have very little complaints about this book. The humor was generally good, including John Perry's, dad joke level stuff that he keeps throwing out throughout the entire book. It's not laugh out loud, but, no. I'll expel air quickly through my nose.
Yeah.
Oh, it worked really well for me. I like dark humor. He laughs when things are the worst. And that's kind of how I cope with bad things in my life, is I make jokes about them. So I really identify with John.
Yeah. I thought it was really good. I thought it was really nice and refreshing to kind of get an old person perspective on going back to, to war and re-enlisting, because he has lived 75 years of his life, and most protagonists that we deal with, are 20 to 40 usually. So to see someone who's kind of at the end of their life and his perspective on everything, it was funny. The action scenes were good, and they were never too much. He could have gotten really bogged down in some of the battles, but I felt like they never took away, they enhanced and then they cut away. And I thought that was a perfect balance that he had there.
So without getting into spoilers, what about the more serious topics addressed in the book? There's some complicated moral ethics going on. You're taking a body and doing a lot of things to it and dumping a new consciousness into it and inserting computers into people's brains without their permission. I mean, technically they sign up for it, but they're not.
They did have permission.
They didn't have informed consent.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about some of those things and how the book handled it. I have very strong questions about it. I have some serious problems with the morals in this book.
I don't know that I can answer this question without going into A, spoilers in this book, and then B, the sequels. So I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
It's fine. I can answer it. They didn't bother me at all, because I was reading the book to have fun and not as a scholastic work of, what my informed consent needs to look like in the future. But, I mean, if these things were even slightly more real to me, this is a possibility that it could happen, then I think I would have a lot of questions. And if I think about it a lot, then yeah, I've got a couple questions and issues, but since it doesn't really affect me, I was like, this is such a cool idea, to swap your body and get a younger body. That sounds cool. To have a computer in your brain. I've often wanted a computer in my brain to help me out with everything. Why wouldn't I? But
would you call it a brain pal?
Well, I definitely wouldn't swear at it all the time.
What will you name your brain pal?
It would be something super tropey, like Ars Arcanum or Cortana or something similar to that effect.
I feel like John Perry had the right idea.
Yeah.
Yeah? See?
Okay,
No.
so
I would say I would probably name my brain pal a word that begins with C, and I can't say.
So the litmus test here, I think, is what do you call your Alexa or your Google or your whatever?
I don't.
I call it Google or Alexa or whatever.
Then you'd probably name your brain pal, Hey Brain Pal.
I could, yeah. But I think if I had the option, I can't name Google and say something else and have it respond. You don't have to use their words. But if I could, I would change it to something, tropey from a science fiction or fantasy book, because that's who I am.
I try really hard not to talk to my computers. If they talk to me, I would name them something, but they don't, because I don't have an Alexa, because I think it's creepy.
Oh, you don't use the OK Google on your phone?
Nope.
Oh, I do it all the time for directions.
All the time.
No. So creepy. I already feel like Google knows way too much about me.
I mean, it does, but there's not really getting around that without going off to live in the woods and...
That's very true.
Mailing
and then
explosives
I wouldn't have Amazon,
to
and how would I get my books?
places. Just Unabomber.
Yeah, exactly. How would you get your books otherwise?
Now we're going to start going into spoilers. So if you have not read this 15-year-old book, turn off the podcast now and go read it. It's funny and fun. And if you don't care about spoilers, if you're LRB, then keep listening.
I mean, if you're familiar with Starship Troopers, you've got a pretty good idea of what happens.
Well,
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I was talking to somebody last night and they had not read either book and had not seen the movie Starship Troopers.
Well, seeing the movie Starship Troopers doesn't help with either book.
No, it doesn't. That's true. That's very true. So let's talk about Ghost Brigades. Diving right in. Oh, wait. Yeah. No, first we wanted Lammy to do something. We wanted him to talk about Starship Troopers and Old Man's War and compare them.
Okay. So, yeah, I had some ideas of where to go with this, and now they're gone.
Oh, dear.
One of the things that Starship Troopers did was it tried to make the future tech seem extremely cool. The powered armor, Johnny Rico loves his powered armor. He talks about it at length. It's amazing. It's one of the major selling points of the book is how cool he makes going to alien planets and blowing them up seem. Old Man's War has some similar stuff. So the Brain Pal, which we've discussed, the overall improvements to the CDF soldier bodies, the gun they have, you guys remember what it's called?
Yeah, it's a gun.
The gun.
It's a cool gun with a computer in it, and you could tell it with the fire.
Yeah.
That's what I remember.
It uses one giant block of nanomaterial and then replicates whatever type of ammunition you want to use as you're firing. It's great.
It reminded me a lot of Mass Effect, the games, with that kind of ammo system.
I haven't played them.
Besides Starship Troopers.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's not that big a deal. That's what it reminded me of as I was reading it again. So.
Oh, okay.
And then there are some other cool tech things. Red, things pointed out the nanotech bubble.
Yes, that was awesome.
To enter from outside atmosphere.
Right.
Was great.
No.
So there's a lot of that. There are a couple of scenes that are basically shot for shot rewrites of scenes from Starship Troopers. The one where they go down to the Wade planet to like send them back to the Stone Age, where Senator Useless got killed.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
That is extraordinarily similar to a scene from Starship Troopers, just without Senator Useless or him getting killed and slightly different aliens, but like basically the same scene.
It was hilarious too. I laughed so hard when he died. I'm a bad person.
Some of the major differences, I would say, are John Perry at one point starts hating that he's an enlisted soldier. Johnny Rico never does. He loves the military. He joins up to this like super fascist government military and just thrives. He's amazing. Where John Perry Godzilla's some tiny people and then almost shoots somebody. It's great.
That made me so sad. I cried during that part when he was stomping on all the people and then he like lost his mind and then they go before the general or whoever's leading their corps and he's like, "Oh, it's been about a year." Yeah, you're right on track.
Yep, you're due.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, and something from the intro that you mentioned is that these are Earth colonies. They are not. These are colonial Union colonies. Earth isn't even considered humanity's home planet anymore.
Okay, well, they're human colonies.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, that's about all I got for that. Did you guys want to...
Well, I mean, the interesting thing about it is that where Johnny Rico is right out of high school, basically, he's like 17 or 18.
Mm-hmm.
John Perry is 75. But they both are kind of naturally inclined to military service, if that makes sense. Like, they both have these, like, crazy weird things that they're just so amazing at. So there's a little bit of Gary Stew. Is that what it's called about them?
I mean, yeah.
Like, it's
yes,
not.
you could say that.
I mean, either that or he just fumbles his way into succeeding, I guess, or something.
Okay. So John Perry is, as written, one, pretty good at the whole murdering aliens thing.
Right.
Just has a natural inclination toward it. And then two, is incredibly lucky and has multiple 1 in a billion things happen to him over the course of the book.
Right.
Oh.
And it's kind of the same with Johnny Rico, too. Like, he just stumbles into success a lot of time. And just happens to be an amazing strategical thinker or something. I don't know.
And
it's the one thing that really bothered me about the book, honestly. And also really bothers me about Starship Troopers.
I think Scalzi handles it a little bit better. He at least gives, like, reasons for John Perry to come up with good ideas. He doesn't give reasons for other people not to have come up with them, which is a little bit more troubling, but what are you gonna do?
Well,
I never felt like John Perry was, like, super inclined to the war. I mean, when he goes through all of his interview questions kind of near the beginning, he talks about how he was at an anti-war rally and he never owned guns. So I never felt like he was like, oh yeah, I'm a military person, or like, I want to go into the military. I felt like he was just a naturally kind of capable person who, when he made that decision to go into the military, and he's good at, following orders and coming up with things on the fly, kind of because he's a writer, and writers a lot of times have to come up with things on the fly, or to be that spontaneous. And so I kind of felt like that was what led him into coming up with some of those ideas, at least throughout the book, where it's like, oh, why didn't anybody else think of that? And I was like, well, he just thought of it first, or, faster, because he had that kind of inclination. But that's just me. I didn't feel he was like a super military guy before. And
I was kind of leaning toward that. Was not that he's like super pro-colonial union, yay, let's go kill aliens. Just, he's really good at it.
Oh, I agree. He's definitely good at it. Yeah. Just the reasoning to join up in the first place was not just because he was a military kind of guy.
Right.
No, it's pretty clear at the beginning that the reason why he joined up is because he wanted to get his body fixed.
Yeah.
He wasn't told it was going to be a clone of him.
Mm-hmm.
He wanted to be young again, but he didn't understand how that would work.
Exactly.
One last comparison between this and Starship Troopers that I recalled. At the end of both books, actually after the end of both books, the protagonist buys a farm. In Starship Troopers, that is terminology for dying.
Right. Oh, right. I didn't even notice that.
But in Old Man's War, he colonizes. He retires and gets a farm on a colony.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think we've done justice to that topic.
Yeah, let's move on.
Let's go to the Ghost Brigades and talking about the fact that, speaking of uninformed consent, anybody who signs up to join the military force, if they die before they're 75, they come and take their gene and they create clones. But these clones do not have the consciousness of the people who used to have those genes. And so basically you're talking about like a 2-year-old with the knowledge of an adult, but no history. And I don't know. Lammy might be able to explain it better. But
okay, this gets explained in a lot more detail in the second book. So
we haven't read the second book.
Right. So I'm concerned about like accidental spoiling. But
I can tell you my thoughts on it, or at least what I was kind of envisioning. Well, I mean, in the beginning they talk about how they have to grow that clone body, and so I just kind of envision like they would be growing that clone body for that person to enlist anyway. And what kind of government bureaucracy / military is going to waste good money that they've put into something, right? So just because the person died, they're still growing this body. They might as well try and get as much use out of it as they can. Now, whether that's right, that's a different question. I don't know.
So what you're suggesting is that everybody who signed up already has these clones growing.
Well, you have to give them DNA before you sign up, when you sign up, as I remember. Okay. Yep. And so then they would start growing it to get it ready for you. Because, I mean, as far as I understood, they couldn't grow the clones immediately. It took time. So
no, that makes a lot of sense. I still think it's questionable ethically.
Well, it's definitely creepy, and I think that's part of why they're such a special ops unit. Aside from obviously their skills as being, if you were to grow up with this the brain pal like they do and everything, then that's they're just they're a different type of people basically. Right? We saw how difficult it is for them to communicate with John because he's thinking at a normal person's pace instead of at like a computer pace. So I like that they were just the special ops. They were kept separate from everybody. And it wasn't like, oh, we hate regular people. It's just, we have communicate with you as easily. We have a tough time understanding why you do things. We know why we do it, and that's a different reason.
But there is resentment. They resent the fact that they don't have a past.
Yeah.
And they spend a whole lot of time making up pasts for themselves.
I mean, I make up pasts for myself. And futures for myself. So I thought it was a pretty human and normal thing. And I mean, just on
I'm not saying it's not normal. I'm just saying that there's definitely resentment.
Yeah.
Lammy, what do you think?
I think I have a question for you, Red.
Okay.
You've brought up a couple of points of questionable ethics in this book so far.
Yep.
Is the Colonial Union the good guys?
Now I'm picturing that GIF. Are we the baddies? I don't know if you know what GIF I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's from Mitchell and Webb.
Yes.
And it's wonderful. Which kind of ties into Starship Troopers because in the movie, they made all the uniforms look like super Nazi-ish, but in space.
I don't think I have enough information about that. I really don't.
Okay.
There's definitely some things that they do that are bad. I mean, stomping on a bunch of little aliens. But I don't know enough about the politics of the galaxy to decide. Does that make sense?
Sure. I
think it's very possible that we could be the baddie.
So, thought experiment time.
Okay.
You have, in the course of this book, you're told several things by the Colonial Union.
Right.
Assuming all of those are true, are these ethical breaches, are they fine in the terms of this universe where everybody's trying to kill you all the time? Like, is that an acceptable...
being, like, the body swapping type thing, or...
Well, is that an acceptable ends to justify the means?
I think I would have less problems with it if they were told exactly what was going to happen to them when they signed up. Does that make sense? So if they knew that they were not going to be in their own body and that they were going to have a computer inserted into their brain and they were going to have a bunch of alien genetic mucking around in their clone's body, it would be much less questionable.
But you get to be super strong and super fast and super sexy and green.
Wow, that was so weird. And
you can download old Looney Tunes cartoons into your brain pal and watch them just whenever.
Right. But what I'm saying is my problem I have two major ethical problems. I know, Cesky, you didn't want to get all serious, and here we go.
I know. I'm fine with getting serious with it. That's part of talking about it.
So my first ethical question is, they are not told when they sign up what is going to happen.
Right.
But they are given the option to refuse at any point.
Until they go into space.
Yeah,
But they don't know about the clone transfer thing until it's actually time to do it.
And they aren't allowed to say no at that point because they're in space.
Oh.
I mean, wasn't he still allowed to say no?
That's a technicality that I don't approve of that technicality. I'm just saying. And also they aren't told that if they die, well, we're just going to use your clone anyway. And that is one of my major problems with it. The second one is I think if clones are real, and they kind of are because twins are real, and technically twins are genetic matches, that clone has a personality and a brain and a whatever, and you're displacing another person to stick your consciousness into that brain, and that just seems wrong to me. So those are my two major ethical problems with what they're doing clone-wise.
Okay. The second one isn't a valid complaint for reasons that are explained in later books that I don't want to spoil you on.
Good! I'm glad that I am not crazy for thinking that. Thank you.
No, sorry, you're crazy.
Well, I am, but not for thinking that. I'm crazy for a whole bunch of other reasons.
Yeah. Some of the other body enhancement stuff I thought was really cool, and stuff that I personally had never, seen before. You know, your smart blood, where it'll auto-clot, and your brain can tell it, your brain pal at least can tell where to clot in case of an emergency, and, that was something cool and unique. It'd be like, wow, I kind of wish I had that. I'm bleeding, and I'd just be like, okay, clot my nose so I don't have a bloody nose anymore, or, whatever.
Or have a leg chopped off, and it's fine.
Yeah, I'll just cauterize, it stops bleeding, and I go get it fixed, so.
No, there are lots of cool things. And they're faster, and they have higher endurance, and as Lammy said, they are super sexy.
Indeed. So you guys just want to sit here in silence and think for a few minutes about 1,075-year-olds having sex?
No.
Yeah, well,
no.
They were in 25-year-oldish bodies, so I just breezed through it real quick.
Which means they were probably more inventive.
Leave it to Red to bring our rating up to R.
No, it was an innuendo. I can't help it. Your mind's in the gutter.
Sure, you didn't put it there at all.
No, I didn't.
So,
okay, quick question for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
What was your favorite old fart death scene?
Oh,
that was sad.
I can tell you mine if you want to think for a minute.
No,
I can tell you mine. I just can't remember the name. I think it was Miriam, the one that he kind of ends up pairing off with, during their week long of fun. But where she gets blasted out, she's flying down in the spaceship and it gets blown up, and then she's just kind of flying down into the atmosphere and then, shooting the whole way down and then dies. I think that was my favorite.
And she composed the poem?
Yeah, she composed the haiku right as she was dying and then sent it out. Yeah.
Her name was Maggie.
Thank you. I said the wrong name for sure. A mile off.
So mine was Thomas, who died because he ate something, which was the slime planet.
Slime.
Yeah.
Right. Oh man, that was
where the whole colony was gone, just poof in an instant because slime.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That was a creative enemy, I thought, as well. That was just a very good scene, yeah.
Which, again, is why I would say that I don't know if humans are the bad guys, because there does seem to be a lot of killing all the time going on.
Hey, don't hide from the question. Which was your favorite death scene?
I don't have one, because I read them, and then I was
You feel bad whenever fictional characters die.
I do. I do feel bad when fictional characters died. It's probably Alan's.
Alan's was rough.
Alan's was, yeah.
As the most crushing, when you say favorite death scene, the most soul-crushing of the death scenes for me was Alan, and yeah.
Alan's was definitely a tough one for me.
Well, he's also, at that point in the book, the one character besides John that we've gotten to know the best.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that whole scene where they're flying down into the planet, and it gets all torn up, their shuttle, was really, really upsetting for me. And, but, again, with the humor and whatnot that goes on in this book, he's laying there
himself
dying.
In the back of the throat.
And he thinks it was the first time I'd had my own package waved in front of my face. I was just like, okay.
Yeah. He definitely kept it light enough while getting into some pretty serious stuff, so.
Yeah, right. So, what do we think about the Khonsu? And what seems to be their motivation for fighting?
The Khonsu are amazing. So they function as a cool battle scene, which lets John...
Several.
They only fight him once.
They fight him on the planet where he develops the two-shot system as well.
The battle and then the 1v1s. Which allows him to show off John actually being kind of smart. And then... from that point on, they're basically a deus ex machina whenever he needs them to just...
But you just said they were amazing.
Yeah.
Do you not like or do you not mind Deus Ex?
No, not when they're done well. No tropes are bad if they're done well. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as an inherently bad trope. There are tropes done badly, but that's a different thing.
I was just pushing back a little bit.
I liked the Kansu. I mean, from the beginning scene that we see them, they talk about how they do this ritual every time, and then when you actually see more about their society, they are like a super, like a religious theocracy. I don't know what the real word for that would be, but basically their religion runs, like a theocracy, excuse me. But their religion runs everything. Even the guy, when they're talking with one of the Kansu, he's like, "Oh, I'm just a horrible criminal, and I'm going to go die after this because I've broken our language and spoke your tongue."
Right.
But just their level of dedication that everybody had, I was like, wow, this is a pretty intense people. If even the people are, willing to go to this extent in it.
And they've also harnessed a Dyson sphere around a white dwarf.
Yeah, they're definitely technologically advanced enough.
I don't know what that means. I read it and I was like, okay, sure.
So a Dyson sphere is basically a shell around a star so that you can capture all of the energy that it's expending. It's in sci-fi writing terms, it's a benchmark for technological progress, basically.
Right, okay.
And they're there, and relevant to that, everybody else in the neighborhood is banging rocks together.
Yeah, I kind of picture it like they've got, it's obviously more advanced, but they've got big solar panels just encircling their sun, collecting all the energy. But it's obviously different than that, and that's
no.
The layman's theory about what's going on.
No, I just read it and I was like, I'm reading this book and I don't feel like looking up what this thing is. It sounds like it's cool. Something about, but it was my first encounter with that. So I just thought it was really interesting that John understood their religion. Like they were baptizing a planet kind of in blood.
So the implication I got there isn't that John figured out something else something that nobody else did, so much as there's the official.
I didn't think that
either. There's the official story that the CU tells their soldiers,
right? And
then there's what they actually think is happening based on the information they have.
Yeah, well, and the Ghost Brigade people actually talk about that, about how they think it is about religion, that their whole reason that they're attacking all these planets is about religion.
Yeah. When I read it, my understanding was, along with that, but just that the Kansu are doing this, or it felt like they were doing it to make sure that humans wanted the planet enough, that they were willing to fight for the planet. Not just, here's an easy planet, but they want to make it so every planet is important to humans, kind of a thing, along with the other stuff. So, yeah. Well, Kansu, they don't care, obviously. They can keep every planet they want.
I think that the Kansu's idea is that if they shed blood on a planet, then it becomes part of their
religion and
part of their religion and their empire.
Yeah,
that was my impression. I don't know.
Okay, sorry. Yeah,
it's prediction. Lammy could probably tell us, but he can't because that would be a spoiler. I'm assuming that Kansu come back in the next series.
Well, answering that either yes or no would itself be a spoiler.
I don't know. I don't think so. They're in the next book. I mean, they didn't wipe out.
Sometimes you have to take a little bit of personal responsibility for getting yourself into spoilers or not. But
DM me and tell me. I don't care.
Okay.
See.
I'm trying to follow Kipton's lead on spoilers here, which is be extra super careful.
Oh.
Yeah, I like Kipton's spoiler idea 95% of the time, but that other 5% of the time I feel like if you click on things that a picture and then zoom in, that you should be okay with the spoilers that you put yourself getting into. But that's a different story and not important.
And I was just going to never mind because we're about to go off on a tangent.
I assume Red's going to cut all this Kipton bashing.
Oh no,
we're not Kipton bashing. Kipton knows very well how I feel about spoilers and what I think about his feelings about spoilers. And I think that he's
a great person.
He's a great person. He is. I love playing D&D with him.
All right, what was your next topic for us to talk about, Red?
Yeah, where are we at?
Let's herd you back into the book.
Okay, so how do you feel about the cycle of war? Actually, this is not my topic. This is somebody else's topic. I'm not sure who added this. So whoever added this, present this topic.
Oh, that was me, because it's in blue. I just wanted to talk about, like the cycle of war where he goes off to war and he lives for a while and then he kind of has to take that, like, the brief tour and doing the circuit and where he is teaching, he's talking to the people who are new body transferred and then he goes back, then he's back into fighting and just, I don't know what I really wanted to talk about. Just, the cycle that he went through, it felt real to me that he would go in and then he'd come out and then he'd go back in and, how often that happens to everybody else in there.
So I think that part of it is that he gets institutionalized. So people who are in the military for a while don't like not taking orders. Some people, does that make sense?
Like having a clear direction to your life.
Well, yeah, like there's a need to. I mean, it's the same thing with people in prisons and people who are in. That not having direct orders and not having a direct focus is hard for some people. I think that's part of it. And I also think that part of it is him seeing all these fresh-faced 75-year-olds and knowing that, isn't it something like 75% of them die?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And very high death rate.
And announcing that to them.
Right. And he's lost, like, all the old farts are dead, aren't they? I don't think any.
There's one left.
Two left. Aren't there? Two that go into the science division?
Oh, that's right. That's right. You're right.
I forgot about Jesse.
Yeah. I don't remember the names. I'm sorry.
There's Harry and there's Jesse.
Yeah.
And they're actually very angry for him pulling strings. So I think that was another reason why he felt like he's like, I'd rather just go stomp on little aliens than watch these young 75-year-olds go off to war. I mean, it's not, I don't know. I'm not saying this well at all. What do you think, Lammy?
I mean, I think in the case of like why John went back into combat, I think it was specifically the whole cruise ship director role combined with, hey, 75% of you are going to die because it sucks out there. Have fun.
Right. It was so darn depressing.
It'd be a really tough job to tell 75% of people that you've been with for a week that they're all going to die.
Yeah.
Well, he's not with them for most of the time because they don't see any green people until after they're green.
Yeah. But for that, he knows, he's the one that, introduces them to their new bodies, kind of, and then their first kind of day after that. So, just tough to tell people they're going to die. Would not recommend.
Yeah, no. It's, on paper, it sounds like a really cushy job, but in actual doing it, I don't know that I could.
But I just want to tell you guys that you're going to die.
Yeah, but that's different, because that's the abstract, like, yeah, you'll die someday of something. This is, within 10 years, 75% of you will be dead by vicious war / bullets / who knows what will kill you.
So, real quick question on that. They're 85. What's the average, 75. What's the average life expectancy? Like 90 on Earth? Right?
If that.
Something like
that. Are you talking like right now or in the book?
No. I'm talking about in the book.
I think it was about 90s was in the book.
About 80 to 90, somewhere in there.
Yeah, exactly. So,
like, John even says at one point that, like, sure, 75% of us dying within 10 years
was going to happen anyway.
Like, yeah, just probably going to happen if we'd stayed on Earth.
Yeah, I'm not saying that his job doesn't suck. I'm just pointing out that they get to have a week of fun before they go die. And super sexy bodies.
Yeah.
I'm not just saying.
I wanted to say that something I thought was more questionable was when they're enlisting, telling them that you only have to enlist for 2 to 3 years with a maximum of 10. And it's like, well, obviously you're just going to go for the maximum of 10 every time. That's what they learn when they're up there. Like,
right.
Yeah, we technically said 2 to 3 years, but you're going to go the full 10 no matter what for everybody.
That's actually a thing in the current U.S. military. Is
it? I don't know.
You sign up for however many years. It's been forever since I went through it, so I don't remember everything. But they have the option to recall you for like some amount of time after that.
Yes, but you're not. It's complicated.
Yeah, that's all. I was like, that's the tricky thing. It's going to be 10 years. Just say 10 years, but then nobody would sign up and blah, blah, blah. So
I actually don't think that's true. I think that a lot of people would still sign up.
Yeah, there's definitely an amount of information that the CU could be giving to the people on Earth that wouldn't affect the sign-up rates.
Yeah.
And it's more than they're giving now.
Yes. Yeah. Because they're being promised a brand new body when you're I'm 40.
Well, I don't think technically I don't think they're promised
again.
a brand new body before they even get to space.
They're not.
They're promised that they'll serve and fight for 10 more years at least.
No, but what I'm saying is that if they told them you're going to get a brand new body, people would still be signing. If they gave them the information, people would still sign up.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't been 75 yet, but having a 20-year-old body seems kind of nice right now.
But that leads to a question that I have.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's up with the technology level on Earth? Do you guys notice any fancy future tech?
No, not really. I don't
No. I mean, aside from the space elevator, and that's CDF property.
Right. Did you guys notice the time frame that this book is approximately set in?
No.
Now?
No.
Was it the 2100s or?
The CU has been in operation for at least 200 years. The old farts have a moment of, like, all of them reaching for their PDAs and mentioning that it felt like high school.
So that would be, when were PDAs
I do remember that PDAs were cool in the 80s.
PDA, in this case, is a stand-in for what we would use as a cell phone. Or a tablet, or, just, it's an electronic device, which these 75-year-olds had ready access to in high school.
So that would make it like 2150 or so, maybe?
Or 2200 or 2300, or who knows?
Yeah. I would think almost anything 200 years into the future from now.
But where's the 200 years in the future technology?
True.
I don't know. I liked...
No, that's a very good point. I did not think about that.
Yeah. I liked he kind of explained it a little bit, but not really why Earth wouldn't have that technology, but more like Earth was the slow technology builder. They did the tried and true methods, whereas the CDF was like, we go through explosive growth and we do things.
No, I don't think, I think that it's heavily implied that they are actively keeping technology off of Earth. Because the colonists can't go back to Earth if they go to colonize a planet.
Right.
And the soldiers can't go back to Earth after they go out. And it's strongly implied that they are purposely holding Earth back.
I took it more as like they're not sharing anything they learn from any aliens back with Earth, but that Earth eventually will get to the same spot, but that the CDF was keeping ahead to try and mostly prevent Earth and the colonies from fighting each other or trying to take over each other.
Well,
because that's what would happen 100%.
There would still be technological advancement on Earth, though.
I think there was still technological advancement. We just didn't see any of it. Because it wasn't crucial to the story that Earth has hover cars.
Lammy knows something from the future books, and he's teasing us. Aren't you, Lammy?
That is a baseless accusation, madam.
You would never do that to anybody, would you? You would never tease people.
Neither of you were named Dave. I wouldn't do that to you.
Cesky, do you listen to Lammy's podcast ever?
I've listened to the first 2 or 3 episodes, and then I had to go finish another podcast, and I'm eventually going to work my way back through it. But I like what I heard so far.
Well, I appreciate that. They do get better, like by quite a bit.
Yeah, they do. I can't actually listen to the first episodes. They drive me nuts.
Is that because you don't like Elantris?
No, I actually like it quite a bit.
Mostly it's that I get better at editing.
You get better at editing, and Dave came on.
Yes, Dave is excellent. I had something else.
Oh, you did?
I thought I did.
Are you going to tease us again?
I don't know. I can't remember it. Whatever.
Well, that's all the topics that we have on our spreadsheet, guys. Is there any closing thoughts? Oh, who would you recommend this book to?
Any fans of military sci-fi, anybody who likes Starship Troopers, anybody who has read another of John Scalzi's books and likes his writing style, just generally fans of sci-fi.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think you'd have to be a little bit more specific in who you recommend this one to, but just anybody who likes the things that Lammy already mentioned would like this one as well. And I've never read a Scalzi book that I didn't enjoy.
This is my second Scalzi book.
Ooh, what was your first?
Red Shirt?
Red Shirts. Red Shirts is excellent.
It is.
He does write stuff that isn't fan fiction.
Oh, it just happens to be. I have in my possession something about where people like go into comas or something.
Oh, Lock In.
Yeah, I have not read it yet, but I do have it in my possession.
That one's excellent. There's a second book, maybe a third in the series. I think just a second.
Is he always funny?
Usually.
Because I did find him very, very funny. So I would recommend it to people who are familiar with sci-fi in general and who enjoy dark humor and having their hearts ripped out of their chests. Not literally, figuratively.
I think Red might being a little bit over dramatic here.
Yeah, just a little bit over dramatic. I think
look,
you're right.
I cried like 5 times during this book. And the end of the book, where he gets that message from Jane, who is his wife's clone, and she's like, you know, he's like, well, I'll be there soon enough. And I was like, anyway.
Oh, okay, Red. How concerned were you when there was a callback to Jane's stroke? Or not Jane, what was his wife's name?
Kathy.
There was Jane had a line that was a callback to Kathy's stroke. Were you concerned?
Remember this.
Okay, so the line that Kathy said, like the last thing she said before she died, was, "Where did I put the damn vanilla?"
Right.
Yes. Jane, right before taking shrapnel to the brain, "Where did I put the damn ammo?"
Oh, I didn't catch that. I'm a bad reader. What can I say? I've also have bad opinions about Harry Potter.
Don't bring that up in this podcast.
Is it that you like Harry Potter?
No.
Okay.
No,
it's the Harry Potter portal fantasy.
Yeah, it's
the
portal fantasy. It is not.
It is.
And Drew
not.
agrees with us, Lammy.
Hey,
I'm gonna have to cut this all out.
Drew is wrong again. You guys are all wrong. There is no portal to another world. You can get there by any means besides a portal. You could walk. You could trip your way there and make it.
Cesky.
I will fight you
Cesky.
till the day I die.
Cesky. You know I brought that up just to set you off, right?
I know. But it's an irrational thing.
It was so beautiful. It was beautiful.
You wanted me to talk about info dumps.
Oh, yes, I did.
Yeah.
Tell us about the info dumps.
Okay, so actually, why don't we start with your favorite one, Red, which was the pamphlet for the CDF body and the brain pal.
Oh, I love that one so much.
That was so funny to read.
It was so funny, and it was so messed up at the same time, and you find out that your body belongs to a corporation. Oh, that's the third major ethical problem I have. You don't actually own your own body. And
I really enjoyed the bit where, like, one of the first frequently asked questions that it assumed people would ask, here we go, is, does my body have a brand name? The first common question.
Yes! It's so messed up. So wrong. It's so wrong.
I don't think that's wrong in any sense. Like, to me, it's like, now, don't get me wrong, saying that you don't own your own body is weird and weird, but like, let's say this was like a designer thing where you could go, when you just turn 80 or whatever, you can go get a new body, and they have a couple different brands to choose from, right? That's kind of what it felt like to me, except the military obviously dictates you get this brand and this body.
But here's, going back to where we were talking about earlier, part of the reason why everyone stays in for 10 years is because they have to go back to a normal body once they leave the military.
No, they stay in for 10 years because they're forced to.
Yeah,
they don't
choose to.
Well, either way. But still, when they leave the military, they have to they lose the body that they've been living in.
But they go back to a 20-year-old bog standard human clone body.
So what I'm saying is that they don't own their body.
Right. Yeah, I'm not disagreeing with that part. I'm just saying that the brand name part is not weird to me. That just seems like if you're going to create a body with a bunch of different slices, you're going to name it something and have it be a certain like brand. But
anyway.
So that was an excellent info dump. The other ones that I really enjoyed were just conversations between characters. Like, one character, Alan, knows just enough physics to know how much he doesn't know, and so he's explaining as much as he knows, dumbed down for everybody else. And everybody else in this case becomes us, the reader.
Right.
Yeah. I never felt like he was talking down to me about it or like info dumping in a crazy bad way. It was just new information, yeah.
But the pamphlet is just gold standard. It's fantastic.
It's so funny. It's so wrong. It actually reminded me more of the movie than the book. Starship Troopers.
Like the Starship Troopers propaganda videos. Would you like to know more?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah. It felt very much like that. There were also parts that made me think of Full Metal Jacket. The whole interaction with the drill sergeant was very Full Metal Jacket-y.
I mean, if he had come back at the end to blow up I don't know, who were they fighting at the end? The Ray. That was the
Yeah.
Battle of Coral. Yeah, if he had like shown up at the end to blow up the Ray, then that would have been like full-blown rip-off of Starship Troopers. Because,
He didn't.
yeah.
I don't know. The drill sergeant guy just felt like every other drill sergeant in every movie where there is a drill sergeant. So
Well, as somebody whose grandfather was a drill sergeant, when they're in their drill sergeant mode, that's exactly what they're like.
yeah, no, I believe it. It's just I didn't strike any particular resemblance to me.
Well, so Arlie Ermey's performance in Full Metal Jacket has become the gold standard because he actually was a drill sergeant. He knew what he was talking about. He was a consultant on that film. And then they just gave him the role because he was so good.
He rewrote all of the dialogue for the drill sergeant on that movie.
Yeah.
They gave him the script and he's like, no, a drill sergeant wouldn't say any of this. This is what he...
And then because of that authenticity, every drill sergeant in a movie or a TV show or a book since then has been that, basically.
Right. I think their drill sergeants have changed. I don't think they are allowed to insult their recruits as much anymore. My understanding is correct.
I think they can figure out ways around that.
Probably, but the steers and queers thing is not something that's allowed anymore, shall we say.
Right.
So I'd recommend this book to anybody who has a very dark sense of humor. If you like laughing at chaos, and that's who I'd recommend this book. Since we I don't know if I recommended this at one point, talked about that. Sorry, everyone.
What were the times when you cried? Like, what were those specific scenes?
When Alan died, that whole scene. When he gets the message from his wife, or from Jane. The scenes on the Sparrowhawk where he's getting to know Jane and she just says, tell me about her. And then he'll tell a story about his wife. And just these small, simple little stories that just make up life. And she craves those moments because she's never had those moments in her life. And then I'm beginning to think you're trying to get me to cry, Lammy.
No, I was just curious.
And then, like I said, when he receives that message from her, he receives this unidentified message, and it turns out to be like, I'm going to go retire, and I want you to join me. He says, I'll be with you soon enough. And it was just like, it's like the very last line in the book. But I know I'll see her again soon enough. And I just started bawling.
So
that was 4 scenes. I think there's another one somewhere.
I know you have a lot on your plate, but I would definitely recommend that you continue to the second book read. It will give you more information on a lot of the stuff you had questions about.
Will it make me cry some more?
Probably. I didn't think this book would, so probably.
That's true. You haven't probably listened to many Green Team episodes, but I cried on a bunch of them.
I'm working my way through.
It's fine. I don't mind. I'm just, if you had, the very first episode, I think I'd cry.
I thought I listened to that one. I don't remember it.
It's the recommendation one.
Yeah.
And that's the one I cried.
Did it start out with, Kip swearing and it not getting edited out?
I think that's a different episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. More stuff.
Hi, Kip. How you doing?
Hi, Kip! I'm gonna have to cut out so much.
That's okay. I'm just glad you're editing it.
Hey, I was nicer to you than my own people are to me. I gave you a nice, clean opening.
You did.
I didn't talk over you. I didn't do anything. I never get that.
Okay. Anyway, thank you, Cesky, for joining us, and thank you, Lammy. And where can people find you?
You can find me at the Cosmere Deep Dive podcast, which you can find on Twitter at CosmereCast, CosmereCast. We also have a Facebook page that I hate updating, and I wish I could stop, but I assume there are some people who check it. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/CosmereCast, and more personally, I've been streaming on Twitch lately as Lamguin, Lamguin. Look me up, give me some viewers.
Also, if you're a patron of Lammy's podcast, you can listen to live recordings, so you can see how much his co-hosts abuse him.
And if you're not a patron, one of my co-hosts, Craig, whenever he's on an episode, he also streams the recording.
So thank you, Craig, for loaning us a little corner of your media empire. Join us on Reddit and Discord, but frankly, more on Discord. And thank you, Horizon Brave, for starting this all. Good night, everyone.